Even if he suspects the visitor to be a bad person, what he should do is to call your attention, telling you that this man or this woman that comes here has a very bad character. He wouldn't like the person to his house. You are the rightful person to stop the visitor from coming. Praise the Lord. Today I want to introduce a new topic, what we call testamentary disposition. Or we hear a will. So in law, it's a testament. At times, most of us, when you hear that somebody wants to make a will, the first impression you have is that is the impression we have. That when somebody says, I want to make a will. So the question, even so, but that is not the real thing in will. So, let us get it straight now that a will is not an intention to die, but a will speaks from the dead. That is what a will means, speaks from the dead. What it means is that only a will, that will only be effective. So, and as a matter of fact, if a man doesn't do a will, or a woman has the capacity to do a will. A man has the capacity to do a will. But a minor has no capacity to do a will. When I say a minor, when you are below 18 years, you cannot make a will. You must be an adult of full age before you make a will. A will, what it means is distribution of your properties, whether tangible or intangible. When I say tangible, something like houses and lands and all the rest of them. Intangible is something like money that is in the bank, shares and all the rest of them. You can put it in your will. Then the effect and the importance of a will is it prevents a lot of problems from your family when you are no longer there. Because what you said in the will is exactly what will happen when you die. Anybody you have shared your property in your will, and when you die, that is what we call probate. You go to wherever the will was deposited, it will be propounded, that it will be read to your family. And whatever is in that will is what is going to happen. It prevents confusion and quarrel in the family. If you didn't do any will and eventually you are dead, if you have a property in the township, remember that those properties doesn't belong to your family. You understand what I'm saying? If you have a property in Aba now, you didn't do a will and you are dead, that property doesn't belong to your family. It belongs to government. Your family can only make use of that property unless they get what we call letter of administration. And letter of administration is got in Umahia, the probate office. That is the only time you can make use, anybody can make use of your property in the township. You must get a letter of administration. Forget the fact that most people, their children can sell their property when they are dead. If anybody reports you to government, that property is not yours until you get a letter of administration from the probate. That is why it is important you do a will when you are alive. Moreover, those of us who are wealthy, do a will, distribute your properties the way you want it to be distributed. A will, culture doesn't affect a will. For instance, let me take the Abreba culture that says, If you want to obviate that culture, make a will. A will supersede that culture. For those of them who are here, you see what happened when Nnamdi Kanu died. Or is it Nnamdi Kanu? Because of his will, his children were able to get some properties of his. So, will is very important. Very, very important. It is a will because eventually that is what we call, you can amend your will when you are alive. Assuming you make a will this year, 5 years coming, you sold one of your properties or you acquired a new property and you want it to be in the will, you can change that particular will which you have already made and then supersede it with the new one. So it's not something that is so static. Will is not static. So that is why it is important. You can still sell the property you have given to somebody in a will. Then we say it's deemed. You can now make a new will, superseding the one you have sold the property from. That is good. So I am only introducing the elements of a will today. The man who makes a will, but a will is very technical. Please, if you want to make a will, there are elements in a will, if it is not there, when you die, that will won't function. One is this. The man who is making a will must have two people that will witness his signature. Even if those people are your enemies, but you want them to witness your signature. That's when you are signing your signature. They must witness it. If two people do not witness when you are signing your signature in a will, that will is no will. You must have what we call executors and trustees in your will. That is those who will distribute your property when you die. We call them executors and trustees. I will stop here. I will elaborate more. Yeah, and then in a will, there are so many people have denied some people some properties in a will. Once your father has denied you a will, a property in his will, you can go to heaven and come back. You won't get that property. You can go to court. What the court is looking at is not what was shared. What the court is looking at is what? Whether that will was effectively made. That is why most people, when they make a will, they call their private doctor to attest to that will, that as at the time they made it, you see the hammer, then once a medical doctor has attested for that, let me tell you, if you are a bad son and your father did not give you anything, you cannot get anything, even if you go to heaven and come back. That will is the will. So you better relate well with your father now before he makes a will. Thank you very much. I was only introducing the 10 anyway. Question, what is your question?
Praise the Lord. In fact, I said at the end of the service today, I want to come to you. Last Sunday, before I went to my house, before I got home, there were some people looking for me. See, I'm not a lawyer. I only work in the courts. I'm not a lawyer. So I mentioned your name. Said, I will take your number and give to them. They will come to your office. The issue is that a woman built a house, and she had 2 girls and 2 boys. And these 4 people, their names were written in the will, and the woman died. So the first son said that the 2 women, their names appeared in the will, were not married when the will was done, but now they are married. So now I got kabua haha. Oh, here is soku. Ha charambia. Ha charambia. I back the shoku na Sunday. Back the shoku yika. So they will come to you, sir. Why? Also now will. That is my question.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. If I can understand her question, there was a will where women were provided for. And those women got married before the will was being read. And the boys say they should not get anything because they are married. They are foolish. Even if, let me tell you, even if it is not a will, there is a decision of a Supreme Court that says every lady, every born woman in a family has a right to the father's property. That was a Supreme Court decision. Even when there was no will. How much more somebody give it, unless in the will, there are some people who make a will and say that, let us take for instance, your daughter is Elizabeth. She is not married. And then you give her a property. Inside that will, and you said, if she is married, that property gets back to Bomboy. That is the only way the woman cannot inherit that. Take for instance, let me give you a life example. Iwanyawu, you know Iwanyawu, most of us know Iwanyawu. Yes, Iwanyawu got married to another woman when the first wife died. When he was now rectifying his will, he gave the second wife most of his properties. But with a caveat, if she remarries, that she loses everything. Eventually, that lady has not remarried. Those things are for her. But any day she gets married to another man, she loses those properties. So it is in a will. If the will did not say that if the lady marries, that particular property will get to the brothers. The brother who is saying this is a foolish brother. Because the woman has clearly stated what is her intention. And her intention is that her daughters will follow to inherit her property. So let us mend this thing we are doing now. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm a man. Anyway, the only property that is for a first son is where the father lives. That's the only property. The other property is in our doing meaning. And the parking way property in a town, that is the present law. Forget about what the customary law says. Thank you very much.
Praise the Lord. My question